Yeah, I think it just depends on what results you're getting as well. Because like, I love chicken katsu curry. Every time I make it, I'm dead excited to eat chicken katsu curry.
You're a basic bitch.
I want to eat it non-stop. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like a cat with cat food or a dog with dog food. It's the same thing, but every day I'm excited. I'm wagging my tail. I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah.
If you've got a campaign that is the same every single time and it's getting you amazing results, ignore everything we're saying. Carry on.
I do not want to be around you wagging your tail when there's katsu curry in a restaurant. Welcome to the very 8th episode of Season 2 of BriightCast. How you guys doing?
Yeah, tired. How are you doing?
I feel quite well rested. I had a week off work. Did a Dublin run in a day. That was fun.
Nice.
Did buy merch. I was meant to wear it, but I didn't. Jess, how about you?
Getting over a 2-week-long cold.
Nice.
And just getting over the fact you guys podded without me last week.
Yes. Best reviewed and most watched pod of the season.
Yep.
Don't give me those stats.
So, we've all had time off. What have you been on since you've been back, Joe?
Well, the reason I'm tired is because I have not been sleeping at night because of my new arrival. And yesterday we were filming all day. So it's a busy day.
Yeah.
So just busy at the moment.
Nice. But with all those hours, I guess you're up researching podcast topics, how to improve people's marketing, how to make video content better, all of that.
Actually, I've not been because I've been trying to write some creative stuff, but I've been in a creative rut.
Whoa, more of that later.
Ooh.
Jess, what have you been on?
Catching up. I was off yesterday, so I'm just catching up on a load of projects. We've got a few websites nearing go live.
Yeah.
So catching up with our developer on like amends, getting just the final QA and tweaks sorted.
Yeah.
Got a website ready to go into development, so sort of finalising that with the client. And then with all the websites going live, we've got ads to sort out. So making sure all of the ads are ready for go live, making sure we've got all the assets.
It's a big workload, but it's quite nice when it all falls together because you're in that mindset. So you've built the website with this customer journey in mind.
Yeah.
You've got your right landing pages. So it naturally translates better to the ads.
Yeah.
So you can follow it through rather than when you inherit a website or someone's ad campaign and you're sort of having to do that work of trying to decipher what their original message was and things like that. So
seeing all the work in action as well. Like a website can take a few months to sort of go from design to development to sort of go live. Seeing all that work in the real world, seeing all the ads pointing to it, it's exciting.
Well, my week's been similar to the last pod where I alluded to the fact that I had a bit of trouble, creative trouble, breaking a strategy and a whole campaign strategy and an ad strategy as well. And that's why I brought this week's topic to us, which is how to break out of a marketing or creative rut if you find yourself in. And I think we've all been a little guilty of it. It's a bit easier now. There's a bigger team. I mean, you can bounce ideas off and things, but it's quite easy to fall into, repeating what's worked well in the past.
Also, for listeners, creative rut is a bit different to creative block as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
So we're talking about kind of the rut you can get in when creating content.
Yeah.
Sort of when you feel comfortable in the content you're creating, sort of creating things that work and repeating that rather than experimenting and sort of taking the brand to the next level. You're just sitting at sort of that baseline.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can't create something, it's that the thing you're creating is probably a little bit samey. The thing you're creating is in a rut as opposed to you being blocked creatively.
Yeah.
Although I guess it is still kind of you being blocked creatively, but
yeah.
Rather than it's just the lack of being able to create something. You're creating something, but it's a bit poor.
And it's not necessarily, well, it's almost always not deliberate, right? You just end up having a bit of bias towards stuff that's worked well in the past. And hopefully, but it probably is this, it's a little bit of a safety net as well.
Yeah.
You end up doing it. And you see it with video editing techniques that you might run through. You end up seeing a real spat of it on if you're paying attention on social media because something performs well and then it's mimicked and then repeated. A good example that springs to mind would be the quick read ads which then I think Apple did a version of, and then every company, we did it for clients as well.
And I think there is an element of being able to do that and it being successful. It's kind of jumping on trends, jumping on things that are working. Yeah. It's just that thing of like jumping on it while it's working, but then never changing it, or don't change it for 6 months because it worked.
Yeah.
And the trend's now gone, everyone's creating that content, so you're sort of blending into the background a little bit rather than standing out with the content that once did stand out.
Yeah, definitely.
It's that safety net as well where creating content that feels on brand and you know that works and you know that is good.
Yeah.
And especially in an element of when you have to create a lot of content on a scale. So say if you're creating a social campaign and you're creating content very quickly, or you want to launch new ads, rather than spending the time to actually think, how can this campaign differentiate? What message do we want to get across? How do we get people to stop scrolling to look at this? This is the message. This is how we're going to implement it. This is how we create it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of creating things very quickly rather than putting the strategy in place and the time to sort of think about assets.
Yeah. Well, you tapped on what I think is probably the first bit of advice I would give someone. But just to go back a bit before that, it's when we spoke on an earlier podcast about visual identity and how you can have certain things that you can basically put on any image or any sort of post or content that you're creating and make it feel like yours. And that's an important thing to have, but it can become a bit of a safety net and it can end up being repetitive. But what you touched on, which was nice, is you mentioned a campaign. So a campaign is a great point to almost reinvent that look, because it can be, within a limited time for 3 months or something like that, and that's your campaign. Stella Artois recently did a campaign, and it's more about, it's got modern sort of social fashionistas in it, and they were saying that's stepping away from the brand. But then I read about how it's campaign driven, so it's not necessarily shifting their brand, it's for this campaign, but they've used it as a good way of reinventing their look and at least testing it.
Yeah. If they're using sort of Instagrammers, they're obviously tapping into like the younger market. Yeah. And they did recently, it would have been a while ago, like a very long while ago, but they tried to sort of make their brand a little bit more sophisticated, especially within like the pub sector rather than just their cans. They kind of tried
to make like chalice, didn't they?
Just try and make them look a bit more sophisticated than sort of like Carlin in a standard pint glass.
And they've shifted with the unfiltered as well to try and get in more of the craft thing, because that's meant to be a bit hoppier and stuff. So,
but some really, really good points around how you can break away with it.
You use a campaign and a new campaign that you've got coming up as a chance to reevaluate what your marketing's looked like, how it's been performing, sounding, looking online, and use it as a real opportunity to experiment.
Yeah, we've been eyeing up some cars recently, me and you, and there's a really good point around electric cars being a way to break out of a creative rut, a design rut, or like a traditional rut.
You take the badge off it. Hyundai, Kia, they've done it, and
and the idea is basically with electric vehicles, it's a brand new thing. So it's like the campaign idea basically. With electric vehicles, you can do something bold and something new, and lots of car companies aren't. They're just if you look at like I don't know, like most electric vehicle SUVs, they look like cars.
Those with heritage,
it could be
especially.
It's like a BMW, for example. Like their electric cars look very similar to cars that are doing well. But
unless you saw like the the little green thing on the reg or whatever it is that shows you it's an electric car straight away, you probably wouldn't know unless you specifically knew. But so like with the Hyundai Ioniq 5, it looks like an electric car. Like you look at it and you don't need to be told it's electric. You know it's electric.
Yeah.
So it's a way where they've kind of like broken that, and they've completely moved away from all the other like Hyundai, design sensibilities they've had recently.
There was no expectation there, was there? Like there's no like baseline for them to be like, it needs to look like this or this is what's working. Like because it's so new, there's the ability to be like, oh, this is how they're meant to look, or this is how we want them to look.
Yeah. And I know people think this is dead weird that our sponsors are driving and drinking. But it's breaking out of a creative rut with advertisers. You got to be bold. You got to try new things, haven't you? And I think that's what they've done. They've tried new things. They've just tried
and highlight the new features as well. So there's lots of like driving assistance and stuff like that. So maybe you can have a drink or two or three.
Why have lane assist and a cup holder? What are we trying to tell you?
Exactly.
There's something going on there.
Because they've still got their regular range, but they're using this as an opportunity to test against it.
Yeah.
And to test a bit of changing their values up a little bit, or at least the purpose of this marketing campaign, because they're making an expensive car and they're putting effort into that, whereas before it was all about affordability.
So moving away from drinking and driving.
Yeah.
What ways could companies kind of get themselves out of creative ruts?
Well, the way I did it last week was teamwork. I lent on the team, and actually outside of the normal people I would probably chat to, a little bit because of necessity, because everyone was on holiday. But it was good to get people, not even from your department, not from your company, just some feedback from those people and gain their perspective, because they'll ask outside of perspective questions, which can be really useful. And you might have the answers for them, which is great. But if you don't have the answers, you're like, oh, okay, maybe that doesn't come through in the design work or the marketing message or something like that, which is useful.
Yeah. My main thing is research. So when creating a new campaign, the first thing, after you've come up with like the main message, so after you've come up with the main message for the campaign and what you're trying to achieve, it's then looking at the look and feel of it. Because I feel like it was like your point, I think last week or the week before, Rob, where you have to have this key cornerstone asset to crack the campaign.
Yeah.
To have a feeling of what the campaign's going to look like. And especially more because we're like a visual marketing agency, it isn't just sort of, we're not putting out crap assets type thing. Like the assets are such a core piece with our marketing campaigns. So sort of doing a lot of research around the assets we want to be putting out. So that could be in the sector that we're marketing, outside that sector. It could be Pinterest, Shutterstock.
Yeah.
It could be various platforms. And you're not looking for necessarily a finished piece that you're going to replicate, because you should never do that. You should never copy someone else's work or anything like that. It's usually just a bit of inspiration. It might be like, oh, I like that colour or that pattern. I like the way that they've overlaid colour onto that image. I like the idea of time. I like the way they've used a clock here, or the slider element, or a while ago there was like the grid of 5 where they all linked up on a GIF or something. Like it's just a little bit of inspiration that you can take from it.
Yeah.
Create a mind map, put bits why you like them, and then you can sort of start to see that this bit then links up with this bit and these sort of fit together. And I feel like that helps come out with the rut, because most people look at pre-existing work they've created and then just start replicating it with this new message. Like there's no time to step back and look inward. It's kind of, you just full steam ahead creating assets.
Yeah.
Whereas taking the time to sort of mind map a little bit and then say, how does this apply to my brand? How does this come through in this campaign? Then allows them to sort of step out of the same old assets.
It can be a dangerous thing though, can't it? Because if you're pulling those, all those inspirations, let's call them, they can even subconsciously end up just becoming versions of those, can't they?
Yeah, I think you just need to be conscious. Like you say, you just need to be conscious of it. I think the inspiration side, the inspiration bit is the main tip I would give, is just constantly look for inspiration.
Yeah,
because like you don't have a good design vocabulary or marketing vocabulary or creative vocabulary if you're only looking at the stuff you've yourself created before or learnt or whatever.
And within the parameters of your job from 9 to 5 when you're focused on it.
Exactly. Yeah. So like looking at like random design from let's say we're talking specifically about a creative rut. So let's say we're talking about like creating assets for a company. So it's purely this creative idea.
Yeah.
Looking at like design inspirations from like lots of different things that might not necessarily have anything to do with the brand that you're dealing with is definitely like, it's a really, really useful thing. So you could be looking at like, I don't know, like art from feudal Japan, or you could be looking at random Scandinavian furniture. Do you know what I mean? Random, all these different things that might give you an idea of how you might be able to like create this new kind of branding. I looked at ages ago when I was thinking of like Bright's branding in motion. I was looking at stuff like around esports, right? Because esports is a really fast moving industry, really fast moving sport. So a lot of the stuff they have kind of mimics that in terms of like its kineticism, it's like, yeah, it's like feeling, it's super
Yeah.
speedy. There's
If you're looking for
agility to it.
motion,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what better place than something like that, which is
Yeah.
all like that. Yeah.
But you don't, like, going back to what you were saying about kind of just ripping things off potentially, you don't want to rip that off. So I think it's just being able to like being able to take all this inspiration, compile it, mind map, mood board it. We use Milanote quite a lot, which is
Yeah.
great to
Yeah.
do that. Get all that together and then think, how can I then make that mine? Because you
Yeah.
should all, we're assuming that the people who are listening who might be in a creative rut already have their branding.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
how
yeah.
can your branding assimilate to that
Yeah.
inspiration? How can you draw
Yeah.
from it for your branding? Not how can you take that bit of inspiration and that then become your branding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's the
yeah.
main way people
Yeah.
fall down and they end up just copying.
It's asking
Copycats.
what's our version of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's also learning how to like digest the inspiration you're looking at. So rather than just saying, "Oh, I like that," why do you like that?
Yeah.
Is it how it moves? Is it the colours they're using? Is it the imagery?
You
Is
mentioned
it
Milanote,
copy?
and that actually comes through on a Milanote. You
Yeah.
can see the evolution of comments where it's like, this is cool. And it's like, I like how this moves. And then
Yeah.
you're like, I like how, you know, it's posturized time or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, I like it's a repeater and stuff. And you end up really breaking it
Yeah.
down.
Because then it's even like you're not then necessarily using that as an example. You're taking the style of whatever you like
Yeah.
and exploring that further. So it's even sometimes when we've created a campaign, we'd go away and do research on our own. And we wouldn't necessarily bring examples to each other, but we'd bring the idea, the concept. So it might be, yeah, I like the way that this moves. I like the idea of having an underline, or I don't know, something. It'd be the idea or the asset style or something that we'd bring to each other, not necessarily a fully fledged asset or a piece of copy.
I know for our website, we were after sort of an essence or a feel that we wanted to run through it. And a good thing that we did that others should do is we set a meeting up to discuss it, but we gave everyone time to do research and said, bring your ideas, basically.
Yeah.
And that was good because people wouldn't just turn up blind. They've done some homework. And even if they haven't landed on actually anything that you necessarily want, they've discovered what they don't want.
Yeah.
And they've started thinking in that way,
Yeah.
in that creative way to try and, you know, at least be able to offer more valuable feedback on other people's ideas or build on them.
We did it for Future Proof. I don't know if you can remember. It was the three of us. And we were looking for a new image style, mainly for blogs. And we set an hour timer. The three of us came up with a blog image. And then we showed each other. And I think we landed on Drew's.
I don't even remember who won. Maybe I won.
Maybe.
I think we all know.
I think we landed on Drew's in the end. But it was the idea of we could see what we like, what we don't like. And it was sort of exploring the idea a bit further, where it was like, I was struggling with this piece of thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of talking to the rest of the team and just setting some time aside. Because it could even be that all three of them wasn't quite right. But then we could have been like, oh, I like this bit from Rob's, I like this bit from Jess's, this bit from Drew's quite nice.
Okay, so we've spoken about the importance of getting lots of inspiration, having like a super wide vocabulary on whatever it is you're trying to create. You want a really, really good, like, wide point of reference on lots of things to know what you're doing. I think one of the ways that one of the struggles that comes with that, though, can be how you find the inspiration.
Yeah.
Because trying to find inspiration is almost as hard as like having inspiration for things.
And
So-
under pressure.
Yeah,
like
under
like I
pressure,
was
yeah.
feeling. It was like trying to find that inspiration under pressure.
Ideally, you're not under pressure, because the way I like to do it is I'm just kind of constantly looking for inspiration. So I will screen record loads of things on my phone if I see them, and it could be literally anything.
Yeah.
So I've had it where like my son's watching some random like video on like YouTube Kids,
Yeah.
and there's like a title animation, and I really like the movement and the style of it, so I'll screen record that and I'll like go through it and dissect it.
Yeah.
Or I could be looking on like scrolling through Instagram, and I could get like a random like ad for, like, we spoke about targeted ads the other day, you know, about wills or something like that. But there's a design element in there which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not all of it, but a part of it. So there's always little random moments.
Yeah.
So I think just like constantly being aware, if you see something, screen record it, screen cap it, note it down, pop it somewhere. I pop stuff onto my personal Slack channel.
Yeah, I message myself.
Yeah,
a lot
message
on there,
yourself, exactly.
Yeah.
But you could also do the Milanote board, you could do a Google Doc, you could do anything. It
We
doesn't
have a
matter.
Slack channel called This Is Cool, where
It's like-
people
exactly.
pop it in.
Yeah, you can pop stuff in.
And it's similar to what you were saying. Lots of it is someone will pay something, like, ignore the first minute, watch this little bit. This is cool, isn't it?
It's nothing to do with the context necessarily, but it's the idea of you're just constantly being aware of like inspiration.
Yeah.
And then compile that, keep it somewhere where you can really draw upon it easily. Just having like a massive bank of things isn't necessarily the easiest way, but if it's something like laid out like a middle note board, Google Doc, whatever, relatively easy.
It's looking for it everywhere as well, isn't it? Like you might see a leaflet that you like, or a business card, or a sign when you're driving
real world
somewhere.
stuff, definitely.
Like I know there's the majority of stuff you probably see is on socials because it's also easier. You're looking for good content. You're scrolling down. Things are things are catching your eye. You're seeing an ad. You're watching a video.
But looking elsewhere is probably the best way of getting non-derivative works, right? Yeah. But I think as well, by doing what you say, Drew, and making note of it, keeping a repository of everything, it takes out a bit of the other obstacle, which is time, like thinking time around things.
Yeah.
That feeds into the doing creative things under pressure.
Oh yeah, if you've already got this massive bank of stuff and you're constantly looking through it, and then you suddenly get this other job and it's kind of like calling upon, certain like points of reference within design or something like that, that you've already got this little bank of content you can look at, oh, I think this example and this example will be perfect for it. Let's see if this matches and we can get something from it. Again, being super careful to not just rip things off, but everyone pays homage or takes inspiration from something. We can look at anything and it would be derivative of something else, and that's okay as long as they've made it their own and they've been like confident in making it their own. But
and if you make that your culture, like it is here, that's why reaching out to people in the team who wasn't working on this thing helped, because it's part of the culture here. So people are always doing that, and it helps. You might just be setting up the initial messaging for a campaign, and someone will say something like, I don't know, it's about taking time out, and you think, oh, time out, like slowing down time. What's cool examples of that? What's maybe posturized time, looking at time differently, and things like that. So all of those things can come in just from those words, because you've got those visual cues stored up that you've been saving.
I think something to point out as well, though, that the listeners probably aren't in the creative sector. They probably aren't creating assets every day. They're business owners. And yes, creativity hits every business. Every business needs to have great visuals, great branding, a great website, etc., etc. But it's making time to look for those things. So for us, we're always on the lookout. Like every time I scroll down LinkedIn and I see a video or something, I'm watching it to see what other people are putting out, what content people are sharing, why I've stopped at that thing, if there's anything cool we can sort of take and put in, say that this is cool channel and stuff that. But say if you're a business owner and you're very busy, you're not necessarily always on the lookout for creative things. And it's might be just setting yourself a challenge, and it's saying I want to find 3 things a week, or even 1 thing a day.
Especially if you're about to commission someone to do a campaign, because we spoke about this loads of times, but it gives you a vocabulary to have those conversations.
Especially as business owners that aren't necessarily in the nitty gritty of creating the marketing campaign, but they have to approve it. They want to like the campaign and what they're putting out, and if they're not liking what they're currently putting out, trying to find things that they do like, or trying to find things that for the next campaign they want to sort of look at and explore, rather than it just coming to the campaign. It's like, I don't quite like that, but I don't know what I do like, and I don't have any references. It's having that bank of stuff that they like. If they're looking for a new website and they know they're not going to have it for 6 months, it's starting now. It's every website you visit.
It definitely makes it easier. I guess there's a bit of trust and bravery involved to say to, a creative professional, I don't know what this thing is, but I quite like this. But, I'm not too proud to say I've taken loads of ideas from our clients that come with us. And it's not necessarily that idea makes the final thing, but you build on it. And, our guiding principle is best idea wins. It doesn't matter who has it.
Yeah, but I think with that, the idea, if you're setting yourself a target of trying to find 1 bit of branding that or 1 bit of something that you like a day, every 2 days, whatever it is, I don't know. I think that gets in the way of it, because if I set myself a target of there's 1 thing a day that inspires me, and I truly don't find anything inspiring in 1 day, I'm screen capping something that I don't really find inspiring potentially, or I'm failing the task. But whereas I think the idea of just doing it passively, which is kind of what you're also saying, but that was like the point before. It just being a passive thing it's just whenever you're doing anything, I'm not consciously looking for stuff. I'm just on socials. If there are people who don't go on socials or something like that, they can find inspiration from elsewhere.
Yeah.
They must look at other things.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at something.
I guess it was more setting the goal. So like someone that isn't.
You've got to create the habit. So
yeah.
if you're not in the habit of doing it, I guess something like that could help you create the habit.
Which is why I'm saying get in the habit of it.
It could also be not something that they like. It could be something you don't like. Like, and screenshotting that and the reason why you don't like it, so you don't explore it in the future. It could be, I don't like the way this company is portraying through their images. It could be,
what's
I don't
nice
like
about
the professional edge. Or,
I don't like is I used to do it a lot with script writing, where you'll watch something, you'll be like, oh, it would have been more interesting actually to follow this character.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing can happen with, visual content creation. You can be like, oh, I'm not too keen on that. It would have been nicer to see more of this, or if they'd have done this, or it's better if you're like, whoa, no one's ever gone down this route. Like, let's explore that idea.
So it could be screenshotting things that they don't like if they've seen it on LinkedIn and putting that in the Mila note and saying, this is the reason I don't like it. This is how I'd make it better. Or maybe you like the colour of it. It could be something very minor you like about it.
Yeah.
But there's a major thing you don't like.
And it's not just design stuff, obviously. We're not just talking about design stuff. We're talking about anything. So it could be copy that you particularly like. It could be the way that, it's like copy on like a homepage has engaged you.
Yeah.
Something like that. It could be anything. It could be, ad copy that you've seen that enticed you to click.
Yeah.
It could be any of these things that just made you feel inspired or the opposite,
Yeah, definitely.
It's things that people use every day as well. Like, I probably visit 30 websites a day, especially when you're doing research into things and looking at things. So it might even be like, hover state or...
Yeah,
just
exactly, yeah.
Literally anything.
Anything at all that you could utilise within your business. So I think another way of doing it to try and get you out of this creative rut would be just to try stuff that probably will fail, but you're just going to try stuff. You're just going to give things a go. Because there's loads of companies that have tried things and failed, but then you don't think about the failures necessarily. You're thinking about all the other successes. We're not talking about massive failures, but we're talking about, just giving things a go.
It's Mr. Dyson and his bloody 400 iterations before he found it.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be, it's trying stuff. When I say try stuff, it doesn't even need to go live necessarily.
I was just about to say,
It's trying something at some point.
But marketing's set up to try things in a safe environment. All the best practices around Google Ads are, create minimum 3 ads per ad group, because Google's going to find out which one's best anyway.
But I think key things are just to try and like mix it up a little bit and just experiment with things. So like, let's say that your copy has always been like super corporate. But you're looking to engage like a new demographic, mix it up, be a little, dare I say, snarky with your copy. Try things a little bit, a little bit kind of left field of what you'd normally do.
So we spoke about a few ways to overcome the rut.
Yeah.
But what about obstacles people might have in place? So there's 3 really, isn't there? There's lack of time, lack of resources, and then that fear of failure, that fear of creating something that doesn't quite work.
I think it's lack of ambition, right?
Yeah.
If you've got, let's say you're not the business owner. Let's say you're the head of marketing or something.
Yeah.
And you're desperate to try like these new things, these new campaigns, desperate to experiment, desperate to test. You've seen loads of really, really great campaigns within a similar field, or even not, but there's parts that you can take to bolster your campaign. You take it to the MD, CEO, whoever, the final decision maker, and they just like the thing that you've done before. Because it's given them okay results, like they've got by.
They're too scared, scared of the new.
They're not sure it's
that
different.
Fear of failure.
So, exactly. Fear of failure and kind of fear of failure and lack of ambition, I think.
Yeah.
Then that's a big obstacle, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to overcome that. You've got to try and sell that to them.
So for anyone in that predicament, I would say think of how you can walk it out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, you could A/B test just for a month on a Google Ads campaign, social ads campaign, something like that. That, obviously the idea isn't going to be brand damaging.
Yeah.
Because, your CEO is going to say no to that.
Yeah.
But,
if you've got an app called Banter and suddenly you're trying to do a new app called I feel like that's going to be brand damaging, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
For any Ted Lasso fans out there.
Yeah.
Little reference.
It's also explaining that it's for 3 months or something like that. You're doing it for new campaign imagery. You're not changing the whole look and feel of the
do the
brand.
campaign work. Say we're expecting to see this. You know, hoping this is our stretch goal for the KPIs and stuff. And if it does hit that, I think we should start moving towards it. If not, maybe it's a campaign we use now and again. Maybe it fails.
Yeah.
But, we're trying to break through the ceiling of what we're doing now. And, any CEO is going to love that, right?
And looking into that sort of scenario as well, it may be even that they like the idea, but they've got to put it out next week.
Yeah.
They haven't got the time to sort of actually sit down and, yes, they've got a few different ideas. They've got a mind map of examples and avenues they want to explore. But they're creating all the assets themselves. They're doing the ads themselves. They need to change the homepage slightly or the landing page. Yeah. It's then the lack of time. So you might get the yes to do the campaign, but you might not be able to take it that 100%. You might be able to take it 40%, which then could be the failure of the campaign because you've not actually sort of delivered what you want to deliver in the campaign. Or it's just the same thing again. Like, you might use a different colour or a different image style, or maybe not even style. You might even use just someone with that.
How do you overcome that then?
Overcoming it is just, it's outlining the time you need. It's educating those CEOs where it's like, oh, we've started this 3-month campaign. Let's start working on the next one.
Yeah.
Let's start looking at the imagery for the next one. So then you have 3 months to sort of explore the imagery. You have 3 months to set up the next campaign.
You use that motivation or demotivation, because I think when you put out a campaign where you feel like you're doing the same old stuff, you feel a bit flat, and you do feel it, and and it can work, and it does work, but it's not it's not the passion and the vision that you want to be putting out there. So that's when you use that demotivation to be like, right, the next campaign is different, and we're starting it now.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what results you're getting as well, because I love chicken katsu curry. Every time I make it, I'm dead excited to eat chicken katsu curry.
You're a basic bitch.
I want to eat it non-stop, okay?
Yeah.
I'm like a cat with cat food or a dog with dog food. It's the same thing, but every day I'm excited. I'm wagging my tail, I'm excited, okay?
Yeah.
If you've got a campaign that is the same every single time and it's getting you amazing results, ignore everything we're saying. Carry on.
I do not want to be around you wagging your tail when there's katsu curry in a restaurant.
But if it's not getting you like incredible results, it's not giving you that kind of like feeling of passion. If it's not making you feel like me when you're about to have a chicken katsu curry, then you like try something new, try different things. That's
also,
a creative role.
The results is a really good point. If you're getting consistent results, keep getting consistent results. But also use that experimentation and see if you can break through.
I was about to say, like, if you're getting good results, chances are you can get better results.
Yeah.
Like, there's no ceiling necessarily for the results you can be getting.
I know we're talking about results and campaigns, but are you saying there could be a better chicken katsu curry?
I think there could be a better chicken katsu curry.
You mentioned obstacles, and one which I think initially when I was struggling with my marketing creative rut recently is feedback, and how to give it, how to receive it. And I was just getting demotivated. Like, I would create something, or I'd ask for something, a version of something to be given, and I'd review it, and I would just be flat and be like, it's just not hitting it. Right.
It's also hard when you don't know why it's not hitting it.
Well, that's right, and that's how to. That's where you've got to sort of increase your skills on giving feedback, because otherwise you're telling a designer, I don't like it. I don't know why. I just don't like it.
Yeah. Do 10 other versions, and it's like there's nothing for them to go on there.
Yeah. It's you're just going to spiral down, aren't you? Like no one can possibly win in that situation. It's the classic Alien vs Predator. Whoever wins, we lose.
So, but maybe some of these other tips. So, if you've done your reference work, or maybe that's a reminder to go out and look at some inspiration stuff. Yeah. Do it if you're working with designers and design team. Do it with them. Yeah. Set up that meeting. Ask them to bring it.
Yeah, we had it with Charlie recently, didn't we? So he's sorting out our homepage video, and like he didn't really know where to crack on with it, and it was not purely, but like a lot of it was down to like the way I set the brief. I didn't set the brief as well as I could have. So once he'd done like his first version, we reviewed it, and then we were like, oh, okay, cool. I haven't really communicated this properly to you, so let's go through all of this stuff. Let's go through the feeling of it. Did that. bashed it out of the park. It's looking amazing right now.
Yeah.
So like we're about to get it any day now, and it's going to be awesome. Like,
and it's a really good example because all you really knew, or probably, and your brief would have been different to this, but I'm guessing what Charlie took away was you didn't like the old one, or we didn't like the old one.
Yeah.
And that's the same note as the designer showing you something and you were like, I don't like this. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think
there was probably more to it, but it's a similar thing.
I think I just subconsciously thought he knew about the bright. It's like when I'm like navigating someone, if I'm a passenger in a car, I know where I'm going, so I don't tell you to turn left straight away. Rob knows whenever he crashed a few times.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. It's like that. Like I kind of know in my head, so I've just not communicated it properly. So it's that idea of like, you just have to, whoever's setting a brief has to communicate everything properly. And they can do that through all the stages we mentioned before, where it's getting the inspiration, putting it all down, knowing exactly what you want, knowing exactly what you don't want.
Yeah.
I think briefs are, I think we could do another podcast on briefs as a whole thing, but I think it's something that people don't necessarily understand the importance of giving a good brief.
Yeah. Jess, like, if we did a podcast on it, it would not be brief.
Potential title for a brief podcast, it could be Great Briefs, How Not to Get Caught with Your Pants Down.
Yep, that's really good.
Yeah, I like that. But the importance of kind of, if you give a bad brief, you're probably going to get a bad output, or not necessarily a bad output, but you're not going to get the thing that you're envisaging.
Yeah,
you need to make sure we've in the past sort of 6 months very much improved the way we give briefs to each other. We've got briefing docs, we've got the questions that everyone needs the answers to. So with the video, it's the different outputs, like subtitles, where it's going, who needs to review it.
And with your own stuff, it should be no different to client stuff. So we do that with clients all the time. They come to us wanting video content, but there's no real brief.
Yeah.
So
we've got a big old briefing doc right now.
Briefing doc. And what we're really good at is, for their marketing, what should their brief be?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you forget to do that for yourself, and that's you know, fundamental, really.
Yeah, and the brief in a marketing essence is the strategy. So what are you trying to achieve? What's the inspiration you've got? And I think the tips we've given in this episode also kind of help to make sure you're not falling in the rut when you're giving the brief, which would then lead to the people that are working on it to be in a bit of a rut because they're also not getting anywhere because they're not quite sure. And then if there's not the right feedback because you don't know why you don't like it, but you also don't know where else to go.
Oh, our resources are limited, so we're choosing to work with people that we want to work with.
Yeah.
And it's trying to remember about, you know, the reason you're taking this client on is because of the impact and what you want to do with them and help them achieve and move forward. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great pod. Shall we quickly recap just with the headlines of the tips and stuff then? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So like, I think main tip really is like, it's research and inspiration, isn't it? It's putting the time into research, putting that time in to get inspiration.
Create a culture where you're always looking for it.
Collaboration. So don't just work on your own. Don't just hit this rut and then not get any feedback. Sort of invite the rest of the team in, look for an outsider perspective.
Join a
Could
group
be family.
join a group online, show them stuff.
Family,
maybe not family, 'cause my mums and dads are just going to go, really good. I can't use a computer. That's amazing.
Yeah, Reddit's a really good place for lots of like good communities just to ask for feedback if anyone uses Reddit.
Yes.
It's looking at works in progresses as well. So don't just get to the end product and then sit in the rut. It's kind of spend an hour on it. Is it working?
Yeah.
If it's not working, sack it off.
Yeah.
But
also on that, it's experimenting, it's trying new things, it's testing new things, mixing it up.
Yeah. Experiment in a safe way, but there's loads in marketing. It's using a campaign as an opportunity to reinvent your marketing, even if just for that limited run. Yeah. It's a great way of giving it a good test. You know, it's a campaign that's still on brand, but very different.
Yeah. And with the campaign, it could easily be line up everything you've done before and say you're not including any of it. You want to have something fresh.
Yeah. So on that note, shall we go get some katsu curries?
I think we got to, haven't we?
Oh yeah, my tummy's rumbly.